Welcome to Tibble's Apprentice. We are back with another episode with another content creator, and that is Just Cardboard MTG. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me.
I am excited to have you. I love all of my guests, don't get me wrong, but I am excited because I have another Windgrace aficionado. So that's the deck that we're going to be talking about today. And let me just ask you, what did you like about Windgrace? What was it that attracted you to it?
So, I need to give a little bit of a backstory on how I got into Magic to get to Windgrace. It'll
Okay.
be brief. Long story short, I started just how everybody else did. My buddy, for my 21st birthday, so I've been playing for about 11 years, was like, "Oh, I want to teach you Magic." He bought one of the dual decks way back in the day.
All right.
We got the one that came with Zergo Helm Smasher and then the blue wizard that I cannot remember to save my life.
Okay.
But he got me those. We played that. After 2 or 3 games, he's like, "All right, you get it." He handed me his entire collection, which was all in Ziploc bags, no
Wow.
rubber bands, but Ziploc bags. And he goes, "I want you to go through, pick out a color you like and what you want to do." So I went through and I stumbled across white, happened to be one of the first bags I grabbed,
Okay.
and I found Kemba, the artifact, the original Kemba that
Okay.
creates cats. And I was
Uh-huh.
like, well, I like cats. I like the idea of equipping things to get cats. So I built that deck. Then I never got into Commander until Arabu came out. I said I wouldn't play Commander because we all played 60 card. Nobody played Commander in my pod, so we just stuck with 60 card. And I had another friend trying to get me into Commander. I'm like, I'm not doing it. And I jokingly said, if they make a cat Commander, I'll switch to Commander.
Gotcha.
And then Arabu came out, and that's the same time that Edgar came out. So I ended up picking up both cats and vampires because I'm like, well, I like cats, and I had a 60 card vampire deck. So I was like, yeah, sure, this makes sense. Loved loved Arabu, but uh I just wasn't feeling it. I built it Voltron and I went back to mono white Voltron, built Shram, and then Lord Windgrace came out. And I'm like, well, Gruul is my actual colors. My favorite colors are Gruul. I am Gruul clan through and through.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, we added black. I also like black. So now I am a Jund player. I will claim Jund.
Nice.
And when I saw Windgrace, I was like, I like everything about him. I like the fact that he can draw me extra cards, he can get lands back, and just the utility he offered me, which I don't alt him often. We'll talk about that, but I don't typically use his alt. It's mainly he's just a value engine, and I know I could build him more competitively if I wanted to, more
Right.
towards CEDH. But I decided not to go that route. Instead, it is just a very, very finely tuned 8 or like a or very low 9 in my opinion. But it is since day one it came out, I've been tweaking it, working on it, so it is no longer a pre-con. It may still have a few of the pre-con cards in there, but they're slowly getting worked out because it's now at the point where I'm fairly certain that it's stable and I don't want to change much. I did add one card, which we'll talk about, but that's only because, well, when I tell you who it is, you'll be like, yeah, I understand. But I am picking all the fancy arts that I want for everything, the special foils, all that stuff. And I'm just slowly kind of tricking it out because he's my baby and he always will be. And yeah, so when Grace got me because he's a cat, I mean, to be quite honest, cats
All
got me
right.
into Magic and are the reason why I'm staying in Magic.
Nice. Fine. I've got my Windgrace deck here, but I have the feeling that we are on diametrically opposed ends of the spectrum. Not on purpose of any kind or
Yep.
whatever, but I looked at my deck. I took a hard look because I knew you would wanted to talk about
Yep.
this. I took a hard look at my deck, and my build on this, it only contains about 16 creatures, and it
Mhm.
absolutely is a toolbox deck for me. And creatures are like the last thing. I'm not even sure that I'm using him right. The only reason, and you brought this up a little bit though, you use him for his utility. You
Yep.
seldom ultimate him. Same here. I only use him really as a card draw engine.
Yeah.
That's the only reason that I use him. But I'm excited to see how you did it.
Yeah.
Actually, let's start with that. What synergies? What do you have in there that makes it uniquely for you, just cardboard?
Like for me, I originally I was gonna go Jund Super Friends. Now I have cut it down. I think I only run 3 walkers now, but that was my original route when building. Like throughout the years, that's what I wanted to do, but I changed it back. And creatures, I don't. To be quite honest, I don't care about the creatures I have in the deck. They are there to basically allow me to play more lands. I run 40 lands, I'm pretty sure,
Hmm.
which a lot of people are like, that's kind of crazy. And I go, no, it's not. It's
Not
Windgrace.
in this one.
This is what we do. Almost every game, I do get out all 40 lands, which throws a lot of people off because I can do it quite quickly. But it's my whole. For me, there's 2 cards that I will go and search for every time because I have tutors, of course, and that would be either Constant Mist, so nobody ever has combats again,
Okay.
ever, because basically the buyback is you just sacrifice a land, and I'm like, all right, we don't need lands, so let's just sacrifice it. And if you don't have other ways to kill me or counter that spell, the game will go on until either I win or somebody draws out, which normally is me. I typically draw out. It's
Ah.
kind of what he does. Well, I win before I draw out, but I can.
Hopefully, right.
So constant miss is kind of one of the things I'll go again. I'll go grab if I know I'm in a heavy swing meta,
Hmm.
or Voltron decks if I know I'm playing against that. But my my second pack card in this deck is Predacious Deed.
Hmm.
It is the 3-cost Golgari enchantment that basically says X, sacrifice Predacious Deed, destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment with mana value X or less. So, like I said, I don't really care about anything I'm playing besides my lands,
Right.
and there is 2 creatures which we'll talk about that I care about. But this
Interesting.
card is kind of what my deck wants to do, and I have ways to bring Predacious Deed back from the graveyard, which is another, like, I have a way to do that. I have 2 ways to do that actually, and yes, they're both here. All right, cool. So yeah, I do like Predacious Deed.
Pernicious Deed. What I use that has the similar effect, probably a little bit more pricey, but that's the Gaze of Granite. And that always seems to catch people unaware for whatever reason. And really, that's what my deck has become is I want to call it good stuff, except it's not really even good stuff. It's the jank you never ever see anybody
Yeah.
else play. With
Yep.
reason, probably, but some of the things have found a working thing with this. You talked about negating combat. The way I negate combat is with the Sunstone. It's an Ice
Oh,
Age artifact that not a lot of people use, but it requires you to sacrifice snow covered lands. The interesting about that is that gave me a reason to use Dead of Winter, which will
oh,
get around hexproof and stuff.
yep,
So using Dead of Winter will destroys all non-snow creatures and gives them minus X, where that is your land card. So I've got about 15 snow-covered lands in there. So usually that's good at leveling the board or getting rid of
yep,
stuff. I don't care about getting mine, like you said. There's so
yep,
many ways in green and black to get things back.
yep.
I don't really care. So everything's expendable at this point. But
Yes.
anyhow, enough about mine. Tell me a little bit more about what you have.
So my pet card, we'll talk about my pet card because I played an evergreen deck, and this is the deck that made me fall in love with it, and that is Praetor's Council.
Yeah.
It is an 8 costed sorcery that you get everything back and have unlimited hand size from your graveyard. So it is one of the things that keeps the engine running when I run out of gas. And that is also
Gotcha.
one I will go and tutor for if I just have nothing in hand. and running things like heroic intervention, or there's a few others as well that help protect my things, or just that I want to get back.
Mhm.
So Praetor's Council is probably my favorite, is my favorite card in the deck for sure. And it is one that throws people off because not a lot of people play that 8-cost spell anymore.
I was gonna say, yeah, 8 cost. I think I actually did remove it from the deck. That I may have
Mhm.
had it at there one point, and it might be worth that maximum hand size. No maximum hand size is
Yep.
definitely worth it. What I tend to use is my Loaming Shaman that
Yep.
comes out of nowhere to get things back and stuff. And like you said, there's got to be a lot of recursion in there
Yep.
because there's a lot of great spells that you have access to, but
Yep.
they're not as great if you only get to use them once.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
in this deck, in Windgrace specifically, you're definitely going to go for that. What other cards might you use?
One of my favorite that I stumbled across somehow, I didn't realize it was a card, is Vexing Shusher.
What's that?
Oh, you
Uh
need to add this to your deck. So it's hybrid Gul hybrid Gruul, 2-cost, 2/2
huh.
Goblin Shaman. This spell can't be countered. And then for a Gruul pip, so either green or red, target spell can't be countered.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that card is something that if there is a blue player, I will forego grabbing anything else, go and grab that to throw it out, because then everything I play is safe, including it. Because I always have extra mana. I stumbled across it. I want to say, I'm trying to remember the set, and I can't remember the set that I got it in, but I found it randomly going through bulk, just sorting, and I'm like,
Wow.
why am I not playing this card?
I definitely have to add that. I will
Yeah,
definitely look that
yep,
up.
it
Matter
is.
of
It
fact,
is.
I'm ready to cut right now. Just hold on a second. I got to go check something.
Yeah, it's not played enough. Vexing Shusher, like
Mhm.
I mention it, and people are like, "Wait, what's that?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
the best Gruul card that you can kind of think of, because it can't be countered itself, and it doesn't specify creatures can't be countered. This can't be countered. It's just
Wow.
target spell can't be countered.
That
So
is
you can also
awesome.
use it politically too, because it doesn't say target spell you control.
Nice.
So there's been times where I've stopped counter spells to kind of win me the game because
Sure.
of him. So yes, Vexing Shusher is probably in the top. Well, it is. It's in the top 10 cards of the deck. It is one of those cards most people aren't prepared for. And even when they are prepared for it, they're still thrown off because nobody plays it.
That is awesome. I absolutely need that. I got a chance to play this deck actually last night, and sure enough, my board wipe got countered. Of course, I was able to get it back or whatever. And somebody's like, "Well, I knew you had that in your hand." Well, I had 3 board wipes in my hand, but I knew that the guy on the other side of the table had counter spells, so I had backups. But that is definitely going to be my next acquisition at this point.
Yes, I don't
That's
blame you.
awesome.
It for any deck that can run it, it's worth it to be in there, unless you have other ways to do it that are more efficient. But this
Right.
is pretty much the most efficient for this kind of build that I've been able to find.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. What other synergies do you have in there, or what other cards?
Well, so speaking of board wipes and Windgrace's alt, my favorite board wipe to run is Living Death.
Yeah.
And now 90% of the time when I use Windgrace's ult, I am targeting my own creatures just to put them in the graveyard.
Really?
So then I
Okay.
can Living Death. I
Ah,
don't care about the tokens.
sure.
So if the board state is kind of scary and I can pop Windgrace, might as well pop them, get rid of my creatures so I can get them
Sure.
all back. And that card itself has also helped me win a lot of games, just because out of nowhere I'll all of a sudden have a field and people are like, wait a minute, what happened? And
Nice.
I mean, you run the graveyard hate, so you run your Bajuka Bog to get rid of the problem graveyard players and stuff.
For sure.
But yeah, the one thing I do know about the deck that I just recently realized is I do need some graveyard protection. I'm not running any of it.
Ah, okay.
Yep. There is certain things I run, but I realize I don't run any of the artifacts that I can just shuffle my cards back into the graveyard or back into my
Great.
library or anything.
Ah,
Um, and I'm also not running any creatures that do that. So there's two that I want to add. Can't remember what they're called off the top of my head, but that is the one thing my deck is lacking, but it doesn't kill me
that's all
most of the
right.
time.
So an interesting recursion that I run in here to get the library back is Blessed Respite.
Ooh,
So I
what's
get
that
to
one?
bring my shuffle my graveyard back into my library,
Mhm.
and I prevent all combat damage for this turn.
I need that one.
So it's a handy little card. I got a chance to use it last night or whatever. But yeah, it's just a nice little surprise. It's an
Yeah.
instant, of course. And that's also interesting to be able to use against the graveyard player
Yeah.
because suddenly they're going to go in their graveyard to grab something, and then you say, "Hey, why don't you put your whole deck?" It's an outside scenario, and that's usually what I play to is the outside scenario.
I like that
Um,
scenario.
but yeah, that's a possibility. It can save
Yeah.
yourself, and in a pinch, if you really had to, it might make a difference. You know what I mean? If it's going to win you the game. Another thing you mentioned here was the fact that tokens can be sometimes a problem. My solution for that is Ether Snap
Yep.
because the fact that it removes all the counters from all permanents helps take care of planeswalkers,
Yep.
and then it has the remove all tokens. And just by way of example, the I forgot now what the commander is that makes things a token copy of anything. Um,
Oh, I
so
know what you're
somebody,
talking about. Yeah.
yeah, somebody had done their Platinum Angel, made it a token, couldn't lose the game, and so Ether Snap was the only way I was able to do that. Remove
Yep.
all those, boom, and then I was able to get through and stuff. So it's a crazy card for
It
sure.
definitely is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, what other synergies or what other cards do you have in that deck that you like?
So so I have three win cons per se in the deck.
Mhm.
I'm running Torment of Hellfire, of course.
Sure.
It just makes sense. Typically, I'm around one of the last few people around that most of the time can take out multiple players, but
Okay.
it's almost guaranteed to take out at least one.
Right.
Um, but the ways I actually win are Nesting Dragon, which it came in the deck,
Okay.
and Omnath Locus of Rage. I go landfall. Typically, what I'll do is I will hang on. I always play Omnath first because everybody knows Omnath and they just remove them. So
Right.
I'll play Omnath to get them to kill Omnath. And then I'll play Nesting Dragon, play what is the one brings all your lands back from your
Splendid
graveyard?
Reclamation.
Yes, Splendid Reclamation, get all my lands back, do that, or any of just the multiple ways I have lands to get back from my graveyard
Hmm.
and everything. And then that kind of just, I mean, you get the dragon eggs, and then this is where Predacious Deed comes back in, because then I just pop it for 0, all my dragon eggs flip, and I have a bunch of flyers.
Nice.
And that actually is how I've won all of the 5-player games I've been in so far with this deck.
Nice. Okay.
It's this one is currently, I think it's 7 or 8-0 with 5+ player games.
Wow. Nice.
Um, I don't play many of them, of course.
Sure.
But yes, I have, and it's just kind of funny because this deck either goes really, really fast, or each turn I have to constantly think about every move I'm making to make sure I'm making the right ones.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And that's like the Elvish Reclaimer, which is another one of the like staple cards in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Which that one I have kept that in an opening turn one hand with just one land many of times, and well, one or two lands. I typically need two lands so I can sack one and do all that
Okay.
good stuff.
Right.
And it's a lot of fun because people are like, "You're crazy. You're just sacking lands." I'm like, lands are a resource. It's just like life.
Exactly. They.
In
Yeah.
this deck, they are money. I don't care if I sack them now. I'll get them back later. Um, But
Yeah,
yeah, it's one of those things where lands, it's just fun,
nice.
and I love everything about what the Windgrace deck does.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I hate to draw this to a close because obviously we could go on talking about this forever.
We really
We both
could.
love it so much, but um, since we are kind of running short on time, at least at this time, hopefully you'll come back and join me
Oh
again.
yeah.
All right, awesome. I will definitely look forward to that. Before we go, though, I want to say, what have you got? What have you got to pitch? Anything? I mean, a place to find you? Is there any place where you list your decks? Anything?
So, where you can find me is really easy. I'm basically just on Instagram, and
Okay,
that's at justcardboardmtg. I believe I have a link in my bio there that brings you to all of my decks on Moxfield.
awesome,
It 5 of them are currently perfectly up to date. The rest of them are works in progress.
understandable.
Windgrace is currently up to date. I actually had to make a couple edits right before this, which I did. But yeah, so that's where everybody can find me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I encourage you to do that and support all your local content creators. Those people that you watch, definitely like, comment, subscribe, whatever's appropriate. Definitely check out Instagram, YouTube, all of those places. Wow. And again, I'm going to say thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I've had a fun time. I want you to
Yeah,
come back. I may have
definitely.
some more questions here, and I'll have some more general questions just on how you play the game and what your pods are like and stuff.
Yeah.
That would be good to talk about at some point.
Yeah, I would definitely enjoy that. Plus, we need to come back again because now I need to hear all about your Windgrace stack. So we gotta do a part 2. We gotta do a follow-up.
Mine is just all jank. Just understand it's
Hey,
all jank.
I love Jank, but I would love to hear your thought process behind it because I have checked out your deck list, and I'm like, I don't get it, but I like it.
I was
So
just
I
going to
would
say I probably can't justify any of the reasons that I have except I used it one time and it worked. So that's it.
that's to be fair, that's how Praetor's Council became my pet card was because I
Nice.
played it once. It did exactly what I had never thought a card would do, and I'm like, yeah, this is the way we go. Right?
Awesome. Awesome. Well, again, thank you for joining me, and we'll have you back again here soon.
Definitely, thank you.
All right.
I was down, losing every game, ready to quit, buried in shame. But then I found a secret trick to turn the tide and make them sit. No more expensive cars, no more fancy bling. I went all in with my budget swing, forsaking the idea of